What's up, YouTube? Why is education frowned upon in the black community? There are multiple reasons to why it's frowned upon, but for me, the biggest one is because the money is not quick, right? There is no duffel bag, the Gucci bag filled with money. There is no pouring it out on the bed. There is no I'm making it rain. There is no half naked chick counting it. There's none of that. Okay? That's not how it works. It's slow and it's gradual. And a lot of the times we want it quick simply because we don't want to work hard. But at the same time, I can understand, when you're living in a desperate situation, you kind of want to get out. So you do have to be sympathetic in terms of why people want that quick money. But at the end of the day, the problem is people don't understand when they look at a rapper, okay? Especially rappers and entertainers. They don't understand how long it took for them to get there. And they don't look at somebody's background. There's a lot of R&B artists who come from two-parent households, who went to college. So quite frankly, they have the time and the money to live out their dreams. Okay? A lot of the times people don't hear the stories about the R&B artist or the rapper who was living in their car, who was struggling for a good 7-10 years before they finally made it. So it's not even overnight. Even in terms of NFL and the NBA, we hear LeBron James, but nobody really has that LeBron James story. There are a lot of players just fighting to get into the league. They're just fighting to get $1 million contract. And you take away taxes, it's not even like they're caking off. And it takes a while. You know how many players are overseas? I can name about 15 guys that I know personally who are playing ball overseas. I can name about 7 Nigerians who are still trying to make the NFL right now. Playing in this league and that league, trying to try out and all that other stuff. It takes a while, and even if you make it, you're not caked off. Okay, but we have this assumption that there is quick money, but we don't understand the stories behind the athletes and the entertainers. All we see is cribs. All we see are the videos where the majority of those cars are rented. The houses are rented. If you watch videos closely, they're all at the same house. Right? All the jewelry is rented or on loan. So it's, people aren't necessarily really getting money that quickly. But it's the illusion, it's the fantasy. So we're drawn into that fantasy that they're getting it quick. Right? Because everybody likes a good story. Everybody likes a good story. Everybody likes that story that goes against normal life, right? Everyday life. But it's not happening that way. One of the better videos Sergeant Willie Pete did, and I often reference some of the videos he did simply because a lot of people tend to forget some of the other things that he's talked about. Not to give him a pass or excuse some of the things he said, but, sometimes you have to judge somebody based off of their whole body of work and not just videos, that are hot topics. But anyways, he talked about how if you watch Cribs, you'll see the R&B artist or the rapper in the community, but none of his neighbors are other rappers, athletes, and entertainers. They're all regular people. They're all lawyers, doctors, dentists, business owners, who did what? Took the slow route, right? Didn't go for quick money. Took the slow route and ended up where they needed to be. And like I said, we don't look at that. We think that if we go slow and we use education, that we're not going to get caked off. That you're not going to make money. That you're going to be stuck making, $50,000 somewhere unhappy. Barely struggling to get by. And that's the, misconception that we all have. You can be just as ambitious, with your education. Is it going to be quick? No. But at the end of the day, being a rapper, being an athlete, that's not quick either. Just listen to everybody's stories. We don't do enough of that. When I hear somebody who's famous or made it big, I don't care about what they're doing now. I just love to hear their story. I love to hear about all the tough times before they actually, caked off and did well. So like I said, that's why we don't value it, or at least that's the main reason to why we don't value it. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. A lot of misinformation out there in terms of how people are getting money, and that's why, to be real, there's a lot of lack of sympathy for black people when they're not in a position that's favorable, because not every non-black person comes from money. Okay, there are poor Asians, poor whites, poor you name it, who don't come from money, whose parents didn't buy them a car for their 16th birthday, whose parents don't pay for their tuition, who did things the hard, tough route, who had to work 2 jobs, right? Who had to go to a junior college for a couple of years and transfer over, right? There are people who actually had to go through some shit, and they have made it, so they don't have any sympathy for you. So it's tough because, how do you break that cycle? And all I can say is, maybe as a community we can do a better job of actually telling youth how hard it is to make it. But it's tough when you have Kanye West, who will make an album, his first album, College Dropout, pretty much making a mockery of those who did go to school, who did go to college, right? You have that. It's probably one of his best CDs. And it's, like I said, it's pretty much, dissing the hell out of people who choose college. Therefore, reinforcing this whole idea that it doesn't make any sense to go to college because, there is no money to be made, which is quite the contrary. How many people are around Kanye West making millions off of his millions who are college educated? But we don't hear those stories, right? We never hear those stories, right? How many $1 million athletes do we have who have $1 million agents who did go to school, right? But once again, we don't hear those stories. Like I said, it's tough because, the whole idea of education not paying off in the long run is affecting the men more than the women. The women is a little bit different because they're not expected to produce as much. So for them, it's okay to take the long route and take their time, right? Women are, especially if she's an attractive woman, she'll be okay. She's not worried about money. I remember when I was in school, there were women who, got a lot of their money from boys back at home who were dealing drugs. So if they were short some money or, they needed some spending cash, they would call up their boy and they was getting drug money. Real talk. And it's funny because, these same women will turn around and act as if they're better, but they didn't have any problem in taking some of that money. Right? They didn't have a problem with having an older brother who maybe didn't go to college support them when they needed money. So it's definitely a tough situation. And a lot of the times, what people don't understand about single black boy or black boys growing up in single parent households, with single mothers, is they're struggling financially. So a lot of the times these younger black boys have to work, right? They don't have the opportunity to, get there slowly. There's oftentimes, a family would rather send the daughter to school but have the son work and start bringing home money. I have friends who had to drop out of school simply because they had to start making money immediately. And it was unfortunate. But once again, the women don't talk about it. So let me end that here because I'll probably pick up that thought in another video. I don't want to get too off track. So anyways, you guys share your thoughts and opinions. Take it easy. God bless.